We are live. Let me get rid of our starting soon. Well, there we go. Greetings and salutations, test takers. Welcome to our Tuesday night Ask the Series 7 Guru Anything. Well, I'll take that back. Anything related to FINRA and NASA content with our always special VIP guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. I'm Dean Tenney, also known as the Series 7 Guru. We'll get rid of some housekeeping, and then we'll see what we can help you with in the way of content. Tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. We do have quite a bit of audience in India, Brian, surprisingly enough, which is interesting. And we got a couple of people from Mexico. So now YouTube will allow me to change the languages so it does multilingual translation. I'm like, wow. Which I think in our business is hard because I don't think the FINRA NASA content is in English to begin with. But, you know. All right, let's see what we got going. If you do have a question for us this evening, it helps Brian and I pick it out of the chat. If you tell us before the question what exam the question relates to, because while there is overlap, I had a guy who said, hey, this SIE is just like the 7. I nailed the SIE. I'm going to nail the 7. I said, well, confidence is a good attribute of a test taker, but hubris is not. And so, you know, I'd slow your roll there a little bit, my friend, because the level of questions on Series 7, even though there's overlap, are much more depth, a lot more judgments, for example. So if Brian and I are answering it in the format you would encounter it on SIE, that's going to be a different answer than if it's 7 or 24 or some other thing. Not necessary, but suggested, recommended. If you're looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, nothing better than my YouTube channel. We're number one. We got over 7 million views, over 50,000 subscribers, 1.5 million hours of watch time. That's number one based on the contributions we've made to testing victories and referrals. I've organized my YouTube channel on series playlists. So you find your SIE, for example. I had a guy today. There are 4 playlists. Those playlists are in suggested watch order. The videos in those playlists are in suggested watch order, but it is a buffet. So if you don't like something, they'll put it on your tray. If you like something, put it on your tray. Now, if you're looking for a particular content question, please use the channel search bar. Brian and I know that tonight we're going to get asked questions that we've answered many, many times and are in the channel. If you just hit the channel search bar, we're still going to answer them for you. But, you know, just put that in there, margin or accrued interest or parity, whatever it happens to be, and poof, all kinds of content will magically appear. Now, if you're looking for a paid supplement, please note, free supplement, paid supplement, keyword supplement. We don't hold ourselves out as standalone solutions to your testing victory. What we try and be is a bridge to help you from your paid materials to your, your paid primary study materials to your actual exam. I think the best paid supplement out there would be a combination of the Kaplan Q-Bank. For Series 7, for example, with our 15% discount code, that's $55.80. Get over 3,600 questions. Most importantly, a performance tracker to help you identify areas for remediation. And until Brian writes his own Q-Bank, oh, well, I think his would be better. But Brian has a paid supplement. He's been kind enough to offer our viewers a 20% discount on his content, all in on Brian, which is a great distillation of, your paid study materials to the exam. I get all the time, Brian, people call me and go, well, Brian didn't talk about it. I go, well, it probably wasn't important. The textbooks can go a little bit too much in depth, all in about $100. So you're looking like $150, $60 for what I think is the best arrows in your quiver as it relates to a paid supplement. Now on Brian, not only do you get the video course, you also get a PDF. The PDF has some neat stuff in it. It has class notes. It has a cheat sheet. And most importantly, as it relates to what I think is great in there, he has a practice exam, a practice test for each of the series exams that I think has the strongest correlation to the actual test. On my booking page, deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, almost everything there is paid. Your YouTube channel is completely free. I don't have to sell you channel memberships. I don't sell coffee cups or T-shirts, or as much as YouTube bugs me to sell stuff off the YouTube channel, I don't do it. Almost everything on my booking page is paid for. There are a couple free items on my booking page, deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. We do a weekly Q&A jam session that's open to all, where we have a electronic version of Brian's old-fashioned whiteboard, and we go through questions on the QBank or whatever you have. I had a guy, Brian, in the last session, he pulled up 20 STC practice quiz, a 20 question practice quiz. I don't know. I'm not doing your practice quizzes with you. You're supposed to bring what you think are challenging questions to that or things you need help on. That's free. If you win tonight, if you win the drawing, you do not win a tutoring session at a time and date and time of your choice. What you win is a coaching call. Same thing. You go to the class tab on deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You'll find coaching call for weekly drawing winners, and you can register yourself and you show up and we talk about whatever you want to talk about. You are not alone. You are not alone. You know, I think since COVID, one of the things that's been terrible is not being at the office and not having a cohort you're training with is you can think you're all alone, but you're not. We have various communities for test takers. Our Facebook community is called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Hard to believe, Brian, we just crossed 1,300 members on that Facebook group. We have chats for each of those. We're averaging 4 or 5 posts a day, making us the most active Facebook group out there. So feel free to join us there. On that community. Baby broker is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. A hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. Think SIE 766 or SIE 663. You get the general idea. We also have Reddit communities. We have subreddits for the Series 6. We have a subreddit for the SIE and Series 7. We have a subreddit for all the NASA exams, 63, 65, 66, R Series 66. And we have a subreddit for 9, 10s, and 24s, R Series 24. Now, we did, Brian, have a couple questions come in early, and I'll knock those out. And then we'll go ahead and get ready. We'll see what's in the chat. The first one that came in is, what is an interval fund? This is testable on NASA exams. And an interval fund is a non-traditional type of closed end. What we mean by non-traditional is it doesn't trade supply and demand every day. It periodically offers to cash you out based on a calculation of an approximation of what we would think of as an AV. The test question about that, and FINRA's on this, is it's not liquid. So, you know, somebody asked, this does get encountered on NASA exams. Anything you would add to that, Brian?
No, but it is showing up on the 65. I'm not quite sure about the 66.
I've had some reports, so there we go. Now, the other thing people have sent in is, what's the difference between a cash account and cash settlement? Yeah. Those are entirely different things. A cash account is when you intend to pay in full, right? So you buy 1,000 shares at 40, that's $40,000. If you're doing that in your retirement account or your custodial account, your Uniform Transfer Minors Act, you have to pay in full $40,000. That's T plus 1 plus 2, because Reg T applies even to cash accounts, so clients get 2 additional days. Now, remember, the Uniform Practice Code standardizes practices within the securities industry, and regular way settlement is T plus 1, but you might want to accelerate that settlement and cash settle same day. You might want to get on the shareholder list today instead of tomorrow. You might want to have it settled December 31st, 2025, instead of stand January 1st, 2026. That is an irregular way to settle a trade, right? The regular way is the Uniform Practice Code. All right. The other thing, Brian, that keeps coming up, people see, is cash versus accrual accounting. Yeah. And I think the easiest way to explain this is just a simple business like mine. In a simple business like mine, I do cash accounting. Now, that doesn't give me an accurate picture of my business because I bill quarterly to Kaplan, for example. So, you know, March, I think, man, I did $20,000. Not really. 20 divided by 3. If I was using accrual accounting, I would take that each month and reflect it on my income statement rather than every end of each quarter having this big inflow of money because I'm doing cash accounting. That gives a not as accurate a picture of the business. Accrual accounting, as I said, is where I'm at, would actually be accruing the income and expenses, by the way. I do cash for expenses. We're on a system called StreamYard for this live stream. I pay them once a year. I think it's $2,000 or something. Now, if I really wanted to reflect my expenses, I would take the 2,000 divided by 12, and that would be my monthly cost for this software package, right? I don't. So it looks like in December, Dean has, in January, has a lot of expenses. That's just me either paying for the year or prepaying for the next year. And so it gives me an uneven. Now, for publicly held companies, right, cash accounting recognizes income and expenses when cash is exchanged. Public companies typically use accrual accounting. So that would be my example, where as they earn the money, They've reflected on the income statement rather than when cash is exchanged. Now, that gives you a better picture of the business, but there's also potential for shenanigans. I'll call it shenanigans. Cash method, as I said, is simpler. Most small businesses. Brian, you don't have to share any proprietary information. Does does Test Geek exam prep, you use cash or accrual?
Cash.
There we go. Just easier, right? And Brian and I have a picture of our business because we're not major. We're not Kaplan in a good way. We're not past perfect. All right, let's see what we got going on in chat.
Dean, if I could ask one question.
Sure, of course.
Does that essentially, the cash versus accrual, does that mean essentially the cash accounting is excluding accounts receivable?
No, it would be the same thing, right? So the accounts receivable, my example of Kaplan again, right? If I was going to use accrued accounting, I would say Kaplan owes me $8,000 this month. I don't, right? So I'm doing cash. So I'm realizing that income. It would be the same with expenses, right? If I had an expense, same thing. If it's 3 months and I'm using accrual, I'd say this month I have an expense on my software. I use a lot of different software. I'll use that. So $300 a month, but I do it once a quarter. That's $900. Right. On the accounts payable side and receivable side, it's when cash is exchanged, both, right? I don't know what kind of question people are encountering. It sounds like to me, Brian, it's a definitional question, but I would really think that it would be more about that if you're a reporting company, 10Qs, 10Ks, I can't imagine we're going to run a company like Netflix with cash accounting. Right?
No, exactly.
So, we're going to pay a documentarian to make us a documentary for Netflix, and we're going to pay him $20 million. I don't think we're going to do cash. We're going to say, we're going to stage this in. We'll pay you $4 million over 5 months or however they're going to do it. All right, let's see what we got going on in comments here. Boom, boom, boom. Taking my SIE in 6 days. I feel so inadequate, Jayla, with all these people like you that have these beautiful avatar pictures.
Yeah,
that look professionally done. I'm so not there. Taking the SIE in 6 days. Okay. You've done 6,000 Notman Mark questions. I didn't even know they had that many, Jayla. I mean, are those 6,000 unique questions, or have you done 2,000 questions 3 times? I'd be interested to know. I'm not being facetious. I'd be interested to know if these are questions you are recycling. I think 72 and 75 on Notman Marks is pretty good. Their variance is usually positive. So if you're taking a 65, a 66 variance, right, standard deviation, Jayla would work in your favor. So I think in good shape. Do you suggest more questions for memory? No. Jayla, you might want to go to my site, and I have a SIE practice test and practice question playlist where I have Brian's SIE exam, I have an SIE, I have a STC, I have a Kaplan. Maybe do one of those and get another data point and see where you're at. Oh, God, I can't believe I forgot that, Brian. The best one, Jayla, and I would do this maybe 2 days out. Don't do it right now because it's a really good one. If you go to the FINRA website, they have an SIE practice test that I think is really dynamite. And I would use that as my last intellectual mark. So maybe 2 days out, go do that one. See how you do. How many retirement account questions? I don't know, 2, 3. It's pretty basic. I know 59 and a half, RMDs for 73, no RMDs for Roth, 10% penalty. I mean, it's very basic stuff. So it's there. But if you tell me you missed your mark because of retirement accounts, I'm going to say, nah, Jayla, you had bigger problems elsewhere, my friend. All right. Hello, Dean. Taking the 7 on July 23rd. My education provider is past perfect. So far, I've scored a 7980. Wow. That's great, Andrew. The variance on past perfect, again, is in your favor. So those are great scores on past perfect. What should I be doing to review? I think rinse and repeat. I don't like you're that far out with those kind of scores. I would prefer that you're testing like next week with a score like that. But it looks like whatever you're doing is working. Maybe a similar recommendation as I made to Jayla to maybe do another practice test. I have a whole playlist. I have Brian gives us permission to have his there. Maybe go do that. Just get another data point is what I would recommend. But I don't see your risk with those scores. Brian, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I concur 100%. I would like to do another practice final, especially if you're a week or two out from Kaplan, from me, from Dean, just to get a little different wording. Just to
there you go. Yeah, you should. You're in good shape. Good shape, Andrew. Greetings and salutations, Dean. I took some time off once I passed my SIE. Now back in the mode of studying. I'm on top, Series 7 top. Off any advice? We'll rinse and repeat. You're a victorious test takers, right? So whatever you did for your first victory, I would repeat that, knowing that it's a different dragon you're slaying this time. I was just joking, CD. I don't know if you joined us at the beginning. I had a guy on social media said, I aced my SIE, and the 7 looks like it's the SIE. And I said, okay, well, the confidence is good, but that's a different animal altogether in terms of, I think of the SIE as more of Puff the Magic Dragon, and this one's really a fire-breathing dragon, right? So my advice is just make sure you read the book cover to cover. Make sure you're doing your study blocks. Make sure you're doing each unit and then doing your practice quizzes and then combining them. As a victorious test taker, I think you should do what's worked for you. I'm not sure what that means, Tanner. Discretionary order is very, very testable, Sydney. What is a discretionary order? So Brian has been kind enough to put this on his whiteboard. Let me give Brian his whiteboard there. So if I, as a broker, Sydney, I'm going to make a decision about action, that's the first A, whether to buy or sell the security. If I'm going to make a decision about the asset, which security to buy or sell. If I'm going to make a decision about the amount, the quantity. Now, the reason I think Brian and I like this memory aid device, the 3 A's, is Sydney, you can, by the way, this is for everybody's SIE, 7.
It's on almost
5, yeah, all of them. What constitutes taking discretion? Making a decision about action, asset, or amount. Any one of those A's, right? So I say, Sydney, you say, Dean, there's a jumbo CD of 100 grand coming due my account. Buy whatever utility stock you think looks good. Well, you told me the amount, 100,000. You told me buy. I say, Sydney, I don't have discretionary authority on your account, so I can't decide which utility stock, right? If I'm going to be making a decision about that. Now, Brian, could you add beneath that time and price?
Absolutely. I was just waiting for you to get to it.
Okay. Thank you. So, Sydney, time and price does not constitute taking discretion. So you say, Dean, buy 10,000 shares of GE today at whatever time and price you think looks good. That, Sydney, is called execution. Working the order, getting a customer good execution. That does not require discretionary authority. That is not a discretionary order, right? So I say, Brian, buy 10,000 shares GE. Please note, Sydney, the 3 A's are present. I told Brian to buy. I told him the asset GE, and I told him the amount. That is not a discretionary order. So the way to get these right is just go through your answers being offered to you and see if those 3 A's are present. If they are, well, then it's a discretionary order. Anyone to add to that, Brian?
Nope, you got it.
Very testable. I'll link, Sydney, to a video. I have a type of order, a class replay that I'll link to. I don't link immediately, usually tonight or tomorrow, but I'll link for it. All right, Juan, what should I focus on Series 4? Well, Juan, we've had some very good testing victories in Series 4. And what I would tell you that, Juan, when people are studying for the 4, I think they go down the rabbit holes on advanced option strategies. I'm not saying that's not there, but it's more of a sales supervision exam than people expect. And when they miss, it's usually because they didn't spend as much time on sales supervision. So should focus on supervision, position limits, that kind of stuff on Friday. I would like to know what you're scoring in a practice exam, but that would be my thing to focus on is sales supervision. You can muddle your way through advanced option strategies if you can track money. So I don't know how long it's been since you had a 7. Your thoughts on Series 4, Brian?
Yeah, that's the same comments I get. I've gotten for decades actually on the Series 4. People are so concerned because it's been a while since I've taken the 7. I would probably familiarize myself with the strategies, but I wouldn't go into Series 7 level. Like Dean said, it's almost primarily about supervision.
Yeah, Juan, I'll link to my Series 4 playlist. I have a Series 4 playlist, and one of them is a replay from a Series 4 tutoring session where we did go over some of the advanced strategies. So check that out. I will link to that for you, but check out that Series 4 playlist on the channel. Best way to approach buy a call or put foreign export-import questions. Well, Tanner, we have a memory aid device from the U.S. perspective, and it's called EPIC, and it's from the U.S. perspective, which is when people get hung up on this, oh, your memory aid device doesn't work, right? I see Brian has an ECIP. I do it IPEC. It's the same thing. So if I'm a U.S. exporter, I'm going to buy a put on the foreign currency. Exporters buy puts, EP. If I'm a U.S. importer, I'm going to buy a call. Now, let me give you an example. The memory aid device takes care of that. But so, Tanner, if I'm a U.S. exporter like Boeing and I'm selling my planes in Japan, I'd be afraid that the yen is weak and I don't get any dollars coming back to me in Seattle. Well, I guess they're in Virginia now, but there's a big part of it's in Seattle. This really be rolling in his grave, Brian, if he knew they moved that headquarters twice now out of Seattle. But anyways, right, so I would buy a put. So I'm the chief financial officer, Boeing. You're the CEO. You said, Dean, we're getting killed in the spot market, the current market and exchange rates. The yen is weak. We're not getting as many dollars. I said, well, good news. I put a hedge in place. I bought some puts on the yen, and so we're making up on the hedge some of the money we're losing in the spot market. Or again, we're importing European wine. You're the CEO, the CFO, and you say, Dean, we're getting killed. The dollar is weak, and we're not getting as much wine. I said, well, I have a hedge in place. I bought a call on the euro. It's making up some of that loss we have in the current or spot market. So that's EPIC. That is on the Series 7. It's also on the 65 in terms of, economics. Now, when people do this, I love what Brian said, never U.S. We're not being facetious, Tanner, but Brian and I want to be clear with all of you as test takers. Are we clear? The U.S. dollar is not a foreign currency. The U.S. dollar is not a foreign currency, right? Now, when I'm teaching internationally, Brian, I've been to travel the world teaching classes, and they say, oh, yeah. So we'll test it from the U.S. perspective, right? The center of the universe is New York. Now, when this memory aid doesn't work, Brian, how many times we get, oh, you told me EPIC. It doesn't work here. I said, well, we told you that was for U.S.-based companies. It's the opposite, Tanner, if you're an international company offshore, right? If I'm a Japanese stereo manufacturer and I'm selling my product in the U.S., what am I afraid of, right? So as a Japanese exporter, I'm going to be worried about the dollar is weak, and that means the yen is strong, and I'm going to buy a call on the yen. And if I'm a Japanese importer, I'm afraid the yen is weak, or the dollar the other way, and I'm going to buy that put. So it's the opposite, basically. Brian, you wouldn't want to add to that?
I have both of these on my options quiz. I have both of them on my Series 7 final exam. Most of the publishers, almost all the publishers, give you the U.S.-based acronym, EPIC. But for whatever reason, they failed to give you this one. And this one doesn't show up on the test. So
and Tanner, I would link. You can find, in fact, I just linked to it, I think, the other day. I have a whole, people have asked me over and over, Brian, to do a lecture on non-equity options. And I just didn't think it was worth an entire lecture. So what I did, Tanner, instead, is I queued up 20 non-equity option questions. And in the context of exploiting those questions, we do all of the things you could encounter. The other thing I would say to you, Tanner, is remind yourself that this is low probability. You will probably get one, maybe two, but the vast majority of your option questions are going to be equity options, not non-equity options. So just don't go down any rabbit holes on indexes and foreign currencies and, yield-based options and leaps. I mean, they're there, but, well, it's tomorrow, Sydney. Woo! I love it. Make sure you get some sleep. I'm a little concerned you're with us instead of, getting some rest, but hey. 24. All right. Not fully read the book. Well, that should be top on your agenda. Well, I'm a little worried, Sonny, that you're doing lots of Q&A before you've read the book. You got your cart before your horse, or your horse before your cart, whatever that saying is. So, I would prefer that you read the book as step one in any execution of a study plan. Best practice before you do anything is to read the book, right? So listen to all your videos. Okay. What topic should you focus on most? Sales supervision. But I think you should finish reading the book. That would be my number one thing to tell you. Start saying a few weeks ago, a lot of stuff I can use common sense. Oh, that's good. But all the different nuances of retirement plans are kicking my butt. Any suggestions? Well, again, Noah, I think test prep vendors lead to this because their practice questions are more nuanced obtuse than the actual retirement plan questions on the 65. As I said, Noah, I think most of them are very straightforward, right? I would know 59 and a half, 73, 10% penalty, the difference between defined benefit, defined contribution. I think for the most part, retirement plans are going to be aim and shoot, point and click, unless you get practical application. And when you do, it's going to be cost basis as it relates to qualified or non-qualified plans. But as I said earlier about somebody taking the SIE, if you tell me you missed the 65 because of retirement plans or ERISA, I'm going to say, no, you had bigger problems elsewhere, my friend. Brian, your thoughts on retirement plans on the 65?
Absolutely. And I know some of the textbook publishers have addendums in the back of the book that list, 42 different retirement plans and all of the different requirements. And it's not like that on the test. It's one thing I would add, Dean, the ordinary income for distribution.
Yeah, Brian is right on. So remember, Gabe, there's no way you ever are going to get a retirement distribution that is going to be taxed at anything other than ordinary income.
Correct.
Good point, Brian. You're never going to get a long-term capital gain. The other thing, Brian, I would say is, though, make sure you read those addendums. Sometimes people tell me they never talked about that, and then they find out they did, but they didn't do it in the context.
I agree, but I can't remember who the publisher was, but it was like 3 pages of retirement plans.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Oh my goodness!
I think most of the psychosis, Brian, that people have sometimes is induced by test prep vendors, which I think is a real sin. For example, we talked about non-equity options. Another one is taxation and options. People get so obsessed with taxation and options, and it's mostly just a camouflage gain or loss question. It's not really as complicated as test takers and test prep vendors make it. You brought Brian's Series 7 playlist. His Series 7 course, great. There's a discount, Guru 20, Carolyn. Brian does cash accounting. That means he can't refund. No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's a 20% discount using Guru 20. So
email me, Carolyn. We'll work something out.
There you go, Carolyn. So Brian says, hey, let him know. Just send him an email. Brian at testgeekexamprep.com. Hello. Hey, there you are. Victoria's test taker in the house.
Yes.
Taking my 65 in 4 weeks. Great. It's been plenty of time. Lots of 65s. The Kaplan Q Bank, as we mentioned, Noah, we mostly, Brian and I do think it's test prep vendors that are sometimes guilty of what I call, infections. They infect test takers. And, as I said, Noah, you're not alone. And sometimes that's not a good thing, because all of a sudden, Brian, I'll get 100 questions on something that it's aggravating to us because we just don't really think it's as big a deal as people make it out to be.
Noah, if you've been working with the custom quizzes and they're kicking your butt, join the club. That means it's now time to do a simulated exam. I think you're going to find.
Love that. I love that. Great recommendation, because that gives you a better overall feel of quantity and how much those are going to do. That's a great advice, Brian. Hi, Dean Brian. I've heard you refer to the dump sheet for the Series 7. Where can I find that? I don't refer to it. So Dean, test takers sometimes want to have a cheat sheet or the data dump sheet. I don't have one. In fact, I had a company, Brian, that called me, said, hey, this dump sheet you're passing out to the students in your class is not right. I go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, because I don't pass out anything in class, because I don't believe in physical ownership of the content. I believe in intellectual ownership. Now, do I in class go through a whiteboard and show them a matrix? Yes. Do I go throw a teeter-totter? Then I say they might consider putting that on their data dump sheet or cheat sheet. So, Dean, what I suggest is, if you're interested in that, again, it's a buffet thing. Some people like to have a data dump sheet or cheat sheet on their buffet tray. Some people don't. But if you do, I say what you should do, Dean, is Google data dump cheat sheet for Series 7. You'll see all kinds of other person's data dump sheets, but you want your own. So use that as inspiration. I do have a video called Tips, Tricks, and Memory Aids. I do comment on the back end of that, is if you want to make a data dump sheet, there's some things I've covered that I would definitely have on that. Now, here's what I like about a data dump sheet. I don't use data dump sheets except when I was in college and I had to take trig. And she told me I could have 2 sheets of paper with anything on it, front and back, that I could take into the final, every student. But for me, and I thought, man, this is a lifesaver. I mean, boy, the sad part, Dean, I spend so much time on my 2-page data dump sheet. I accidentally learned the crap because I spent so much time, square in the circle or whatever, the parabola of the thing. Anyways, I accidentally learned it. But I had bought her previous notes, and I took her class and audited it once, the college professor, without a grade. And then, when I came back for the grade, she goes, well, you've seen all my stuff? And I said, yes, that was the point of the audit. I actually know what these exams look like now. And she goes, well, I don't change my content. I said, I was kind of counting on that. I've seen it all. But what I do like in terms of placebo effect, Dean, is it sometimes gets your brain in the right flow. If you start by taking one of those sheets of paper out and doing your data dump sheet, your brain kind of gets a little bit more into, okay, it's test time. You're not warming up on the exam. Now the clock will be working against you. And then, Dean, make your model. If I told you could have a sheet of paper front and back, what would be on? Make your model. Your brain's at the best before you go to bed in the morning. And I would then try every night and every morning to replicate that data dump sheet. The other thing I see, Brian, is people tell me they memorized their data dump sheet, but they didn't because they have it there and they haven't ever flushed it out. And they go there. I had a guy said, well, I memorized my data dump sheet. I go, well, show me what it was. And he couldn't flush it out. So I suggest if you're going to use a data dump sheet, every night, every morning, try and dump out your model and see how close you can come. If you did that every day, you'd be pretty good shape. Brian, your thoughts on data dump sheets?
Dump sheets are very individualized.
Yeah.
And you've already named two of the most common, the option matrix and the teeter-totter. I used a couple of others because I like to categorize stuff for my brain where I create charts. And
I do it by subject.
The Rule 144 stuff, I always try that.
I do it by subject area in my data dump, Dean. Like I have options and munis in different parts of my data dump. Yeah. So, and then make sure it's individual because I've seen data dump sheets and they're copying somebody else's. Like Achievable has this thing called the Mayhammer, which I just think is, for me, just more confusing than knowing the concept of accretion. So, don't blindly use somebody else's cheat sheet. Cherry pick. After the missing mark by 3 points, I'll be taking a 63 in 2 weeks. Love it. I think you can. We have Acolyte. I haven't seen Vince in a while. It's the nature of this, right? We come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to pass your exams. The season is how long it takes you to do that. And Vince matriculated, but Vince is one of my favorite students in this regard. As a plan B, I was very, very rarely am I surprised, but I was very surprised he missed his 66. And I had spent enough time with him to think, well, gee, I thought knew this. And I said, it's a plan B, but I think you could take a 63 right now and pass it. Wow. And I think you could take a 65 and pass it. That following week, he actually did that. And now he's back in business, right? So I think you can pass it as well, particularly that 63, 6 by 3 points. And then go take your 65. It's got a little more economics questions. But I think of them as at-bats. That gives you 3 more at-bats without having to wait 30 days, right? You get the at-bat at 63, an at-bat at 65, and then your 66 retake. And then if necessary, we don't wish this. I was telling Vince how much he's my favorite student because of his rocky journey. And then somebody were taking away from that I don't think you should pass your test the first time. Let's be clear. No, we want you to pass the test the first time. That's the ideal situation. So we don't wish you to deal with this, but I think you should definitely consider it. A quarter of the way. All right. I love it. Hopefully you're reading the book. And so reading the book is your first step in your study. Just came across the live stream. Nico, I haven't heard from you in a while. Welcome, my friend. Victorious test taker in the house. Nico gave me permission to put up a shared screen practice test we did. Nico, was that a Series 7 we did with Momentrix? I think it was. I apologize if I'm getting my memory back. Maybe we did more than one, but Nico, I still get comments, Nico, from people like, oh, Nico, And boy, have you had this, Brian, where people just do a 180 and all of a sudden they're on top of it? I mean, they were a little wobbly and then they just commit. And then they commit, and all of a sudden you go, man, who's this test taker?
I hate to use a cliche, but it's almost like just a light bulb comes on.
Yeah. And Nico, look at that. Now he's taking CFA level 1. Woo! Now that is some tough stuff. Yeah, that's a fire-breathing dragon, right? Study, but everybody's different, Walter. Both Brian and I believe that best practice is to get a study date, a test date, and reverse engineer from that. So if I were your person who says, hey, you just, I'm assuming you're doing it in the order. So I'm assuming you had a 7 a while back. If I were your, supervisor, I'd say 4 weeks. I think would be reasonable, but I'd be willing to say 3 or 5. But then we set the date, and then you start studying for that. So everybody's different. I don't like telling people how many hours because everybody's unique. I'd build in a fudge factor initially, and then just revisit how the execution or study plan is lining up with that timeline. Your thoughts?
We don't know how much time during the day he has. We don't know the outside family obligations you have. We don't know what your study blocks look like. So it's not really one size fits all. It depends. But 4 to 6 weeks is a good average.
You can't hear Dean. Well, that's not good. Not bueno. Is anybody else can't hear me? I mean, my mic says I'm good. So
loud and clear to me.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Acolyte, if you have the resources, please do buy 63 content, because having you try and make editorial decisions with 66 study materials on what's 63. I think Brian is maybe saying consider the Test Geek 63 program
and the Kaplan Q Bank. Those two things should carry you across.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable telling people to use the 66 for the 63. Well, all right. We're going to send you some good energy. We're going to astral project everything till you need. 4th time. All right. So we got to get this done, my friend. And boy, that 65 is a real bear, isn't it? You're going to get the P, as Brian says. 77 is looking good. So do us a favor. Show back up next week, Tuesday, with the feedback, your report of your testing victory. I'll tell you what, I very rarely do this. Very rarely. It has 100% pass rate. I'm going to ring the victory bell in advance of your testing victory tomorrow. So we're all going to send you some positive test vibes, and you're going to make your mark tomorrow. 2003X. I don't know what that means. Is that about the year?
That's the 6,000. She did 2003.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I thought I was commenting on your Jayla, your picture. I thought you were telling me what the definition, if it's HD TV or what. Okay, so I'm a little worried, Jayla, about that. Because where we don't want to have happen is this is the 3rd time you've seen the question, and you're as much as you're trying to avoid it. Oh, I know it's B. This is just another indication we want to diversify the questions you're looking at. So that's, I don't know what QBank you're using. You may have told us earlier, but certainly go to my playlist. I always have a playlist with practice questions and practice tests. Go to that playlist and find another one to do and just see what that score is. So get some new questions you haven't seen.
That's right. And FINRAs.
Yeah, that's right. SIE, FINRA.
That one's memorize.
That's like leaving an unused round in your chamber. It's a sin. Angels weep for you if you're an SIE test taker and you don't take that FINRA test between now and test time. Now, Jayla, just like we were just saying about your 2003 times, I had a guy go to me to took that FINRA SIE practice test, Brian. He got a 95. I go, and how many times did you do it? He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't believe you just went down there and got a 95. I just don't believe that. He says, are you calling me a liar? I said, well, I'm just making it clear what a liar I am if you're telling me the truth, because I don't believe that. So it too will lose its diagnostic effectiveness if you do it more than once. That's why Brian and I recommend maybe 2 days out you do that rather than doing it too soon. I have a doppelganger version, Jayla, of that. You can 2 things. You can watch me actually do that exam, hit pause, come up with your answer, hit play, and I explain that question to you. Then I wrote another practice test that's the same answer set but different questions, because that practice test, the wrong answers are right answers to different questions. So I wrote some different questions, and that's a doppelganger. I probably should change it to FINRA Doppelganger Exam is a title. All right. Woo! Doppelganger. Hey, we have implemented a new program for not only do we ring the victory bell, ask for whom the bell tolls, we also now toast testing victories. I've been having people who have been sending me, since I implemented the toasting victory thing, I've had people sending me, toasting beverages. So tonight's toasting beverage, Apple, for your victory is Herradura, and it looks like not bad, a reposado. So woo! Let me put Brian back up there. Boom. Oh. And Series 7, all right. Yeah. Now, Brian, the other thing I got, the gift or gratuity rule does not apply to test geeks and gurus. So, knock yourself out. I got a guy who I made a joke, and he sent me a glass that says, that's what I do. I drink and I know things. So I thought that's pretty cool, right? I actually changed the title of the last live stream to the Series 7 Guru. That's what he does. He drinks and he knows things. So kudos. Oh my God. I may have to come back to view this. I take the SIE tomorrow. I don't think I'm where you guys are just yet. I'm nervous. Well, listen, Nicolette, nervousness doesn't help. The biggest thing you've got to do, even though it's tomorrow and the timeline is collapsing, we get that. You've got to have been confident in the execution of your study plan. You have to be confident in yourself. And most importantly, tomorrow, you've got to be confident in your answers. You cannot let other people make you wobbly based on their testing journey. Your testing journeys is yours and yours alone, not what other people are doing. So I would hurt my heart if when you come on our live stream, that you are getting wobbly as a result of our live stream instead of getting stronger. That's not our intent. So if that's truly what happens to somebody, I would prefer you just, go get some sleep and leave the live stream. So be careful. I think the same thing, Nicolette, of study groups. I'm a fan of study groups, except when they're a bunch of confused people confusing other people, right? Have you seen that, Brian, where they all get a study group and then they're all confused? And, and then we, Brian and I sometimes, I don't know if you, Brian, I've had to intervene in the study group and go, no, you guys are all confused. So make sure you invite at least one person who's pretty squared away on the content. Currently studying for 66, just finished Unit 11. I'm a bit confused on the holistic reason for exempt transactions. Well, I don't even like that word, Lars, holistic reason. Why in the world would you think that a regulator of any kind has some holistic reason for anything? The holistic reason is what we call prudential regulation. So I'm going to change your holistic to prudential regulation. Prudential meaning we feel, I'm trying to answer this like a regulator, that certain transactions, we do not need to have those securities be registered because of how they're being sold. And how they're being sold, exempt transactions is a verb. It's a private placement, for example, right? Exempt securities, same thing. Think here, would your own U.S. Treasury rip you off? Probably not. So the U.S. Treasury doesn't have to register securities. Would your own state, county, or municipality rip you off? Probably not. So they don't need to register their securities. Now, I believe, and I'll be interested to see what Brian thinks about this. This is another area where Lars on Fox, I think test prep vendors are the ones who create all this confusion about registration of securities, qualification, coordination, exempt, not exempt, where it's not that big a deal. Maybe 2-3 questions on registration of securities. Most of this is about registration of investment advisor reps. Your thoughts on this, Brian? Is this another rabbit hole for most, I think?
I get this question every other day for both the 65 and the 66. The test prep vendors go above and beyond where you really need to be. You may get 1 or 2 questions, depending 65, 66. That's all. I love how Dean describes this. He just kind of did that. Exempt securities is a noun. Exempt transactions is a verb. It's about a securities registration. That's essentially what it's about. If it's an exempt security, you don't have to worry about selling it and having the security to be registered. In a transaction, same thing. This question applies more to agents than it does to IARs. It doesn't affect the agent's registration. They still have to be registered.
Oh, now I can't hear you, Brian. Uh-oh. They were having technical difficulty. Oh, now you're back.
I'm back. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it was just me. Lars on Fox, one other thing that I would say, and Brian just nailed it. Brian, how many times do we get somebody who thinks a question is about an exempt security or transaction when it's actually about the agent of the broker dealer and there's no exemption there, right? So I don't think Lars on Fox, I'd be worried about the holistic reason. And I don't think it's a big deal in terms of passing your test. How many times I said this tonight? Maybe I might have to, stop coming with a new way. If you tell us you missed your mark on 66 because of exempt securities and exempt transactions, I'm going to say you had bigger problems, my friend, elsewhere. All right, so. Good evening, gents. Pass the SIE. Woo! Herodora, that's some good shit. All right, I'm sorry. Back to business here. Any helpful tricks for this test specifically? Well, make sure you got variable annuities. Make sure you got retail communication, customer accounts. I think, Darth, we had somebody talking about this. I think if you did a good job on your SIE, that the 6 is going to be a lot easier for you. I'll put it that way. I think you almost could pass out of a 6 if you put in a good study effort on the SIE. So customer accounts, variable annuities, retail communications. What do you think, Brian? Anything else?
That's exactly it. And I know this gentleman has passed his 65.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's been with us for a while. Hey, Darth Brew, yeah. Because I remember I thought it was about beer, and then Brian said he thinks it's about coffee, right?
Right.
Do we know for sure? Did we ever solve that mystery, Darth Brew?
It is
with coffee. Right? All right. Well, by the way, it doesn't matter because in the Northwest Brian's from, there's great coffee and there's great beer both.
That's right.
You're welcome, Jayla. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. I got 50 of 75. Let me get my calculator. What is 50 of 75? 50 divided by 75. 66. Okay. And Nicola, you were the one who was worried about tomorrow, right? So you're good shape. I think you have. If I were a betting person, I'd say you're going to make your mark tomorrow. I tested in the morning with no experience studying from past perfect as well, and only 4 weeks of content to memorize, and only 58 to 64. Well, listen, it is what it is, Nicolette. So, you got to go with what you got, right? So, I would try as much as possible to just say, hey, it's go time, and you got to go with what you got. I think there's every reason to expect to pass tomorrow. Past perfect is harder than the actual test. I think your variance, the range is going to be to your advantage. So I think there's every opportunity for you to pass. Now, the sad thing is with those scores, if you miss your mark, it's not going to be much, which is the scores that exasperate me. But I'm sending you good test vibes. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Nicolette. I very rarely do this. Very rarely. But I'm going to call FINRA tonight. And I'm going to arrange for a dream draw for you tomorrow on your SIE. I'm going to call up and I'm going to say, hey, Nicolette is coming down there tomorrow. Let's find out what she knows, not what she doesn't know. We'll leave that for another day. Let's just give her questions and answers that she's familiar with. By the way, Fender, if you're watching, it's a joke. I don't know anybody that can arrange drinks. I tease a lot, Brian, so I got to be careful. So sometimes I'm teasing.
I know.
And people think I'm for real. Really, it's for real, right? I'm like, no, it was a joke. It was a joke. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Brian, you doing well?
I'm doing great.
Pass the SIE 66 on the 7, kind of a weird way to do it. Muni debt, I wouldn't worry about muni debt at all. 017, you should definitely worry about that. I recommend that you take a sheet of paper, fold it in half. On one side, write all the terms associated with GO bonds, and on the other side, all the terms associated with revenue bonds. A big part of those 20 plus questions, plus or minus, lots of muni questions, is distinguishing between GOs and revenues. They like to say all the following are true of GOs except, all the following true of revenues except. We had somebody earlier asking about a data dump sheet, and maybe that's something you want to do, make a little T and then put GOs on one side, revenue, or even have while you're studying. I have a tutoring replay. If you put munis in the tutoring replay list, you'll find out there's a tutoring play I did on munis where we did just that in the session. We actually drew up on a whiteboard a T, and we just went through all the terms associated with GO and revenue. So I definitely have that down. I definitely be able to do tax and tax-free equivalent yields. They do ask about underwriting munis, so I'm not sure. Maybe, I have a playlist, Van, that says, is your vendor's lectures not working for you? So I'll add that to the SDC test book. Go to my Series 7 cram course playlist, and I have a whole muni lecture there you can watch that may you find helpful. I got 2. I got underwriting munis, and I got a muni, and I got a muni class replay. So I got lots of munis content for you on the channel. So try the channel if it's not working for you on STC. Brian, your comments on munis as it relates to Series 7?
I recommend the same thing. The different characteristics. I generally go through, 3 categories: the underwriting, the general characteristics, and then the taxation. And those are the 3 that generally are covered by the top off, Series 7 top off. Yeah.
Denise, that hurts. We were just talking about those scores. That's, that hurts. 826. Wow. Well, that's a ways out. I don't like that. I would prefer we just go back in that cave and slay that dragon and let him, instead of letting him sit there for another couple months. Here's what I say: you get your study groove, refresh and reset. Refresh and reset. I would suggest doing a practice test and see where you're at, and then maybe put it away. But I think your brain would do better. Now, if you're going to stick with 826, then maybe 6 weeks out, which is like another week from today, you start studying. But I would prefer that we just go for the 30-day retake. Right, that gives you 2 weeks. Maybe that's a little much at this point, but I don't like that far out. I think it's easier to get wobbly the further thing that is out there. So what do I recommend? I recommend a refresh, a reset, a practice test to just see how much is still up there, and then reinitiating your study plan. I have a video I'll link to called "You Failed, Is It Over?" Spoiler alert, the answer is no. It has my 5 recommendations about how to respond to the misfortune of missing your mark. The first that Brian and I always agree on is that you should do an intellectual debrief with yourself. Get that FINRA content outline, go through that, right? Maybe the first thing you could do tonight or tomorrow when you're up to it, just go through it. Plus means you feel like you intellectually own that topic. That's not the topic that you were weak in that did the damage. A 0 would mean you think you're at par. And then counterintuitive, we're looking for minuses. Those are things you will go through that FINRA content outline. And you go, I had no clue about this. Now, what you want to do is bring all those minuses to par and all the pars above par, then make sure the above pars don't slip. For all of you as test takers, would always have the FINRA content outline for your exam, SIE 6, 7, or test specifications from NASA, 63, 65. I'd always have that document near me when I'm studying for the same reason, just to refer back to it, so you can make sense of what these test prep vendors are saying as it relates to the testable topic. Brian provides that in his class notes. I do that on your class notes where you have the PDF of that.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. You want to add anything to that, Brian?
No, that's exactly right. Yeah. You have to look. I would look at the score sheet and look at what areas you were, according to FINRA, below adequate, less than adequate.
Yeah.
Who came up with that scoring system?
That's right. That's right.
But it's typically, what I find, average is area 3, which is
91 questions. 91 questions, Denise.
And area 4, which is
what happens after. By the way, they also tell you the number of performance opportunities in those categories on the content outline. So it matches up perfectly with your printout, and actually is a little more, I think, a little more insightful than that printout they give you. Yeah, it is. BK, I'm just reviewing the Notman 24 now. I haven't got completely through it. And Dave, their guy, says things differently than I would say, BK, but I like it. I'm a little concerned. I just was reviewing their financial net capital chapter, and they went over debt to equity, but they didn't go over subordinated loans. I don't know if it's somewhere else, but, I feel ask Notman, maybe, is there something I'm missing? You guys don't think this is testable? But yeah, Notman is my recommended provider for 24s and 79s as well. The discount code, I do have one. I don't use it very much with them, but it's Guru 10. Getting 62, 64s. Well, we would like you to be in the mid 70 range, so we don't like that. How much time should be good enough to take the real thing? I'd like you to be in the mid 70s, but I don't like, Gabe. It sounds like that you don't have a test date, and so I don't believe in doing Kaplan Q-Bank practice exams. And, to take the real thing. Hopefully you have a test date, and 7 to 10 days out, we should be able to get in the mid 70s on practice tests. So that is my recommendation. Yeah, Brian?
Yeah. Again, as we mentioned earlier this evening, are those on the custom quizzes? Have you taken a simulated exam? I don't know what you mean by practice exam. I know there's one separate practice exam. But
yeah, he's taking the Series 7. Exam. Yeah, Gib, we would like more data from you about more context, more color around those scores, and and how that is reflected in where you're at in your study plan. But right now, we don't like 60. The point right now is we don't like those scores, and you are at risk if you go test with that kind of a score. A lot of people still pass, but we want to have a margin of safety. We don't have to be worried about whether you're going to make your mark or not. Oh, well, there you go. Serendipity, I guess. Kismet, is that what they call that? Love it. Well, I'm glad, Nicolette. I'm glad you didn't make it a point the night before your exam to do this for a live stream. So just happened. Can I talk about T-bills, bid and ask? Yes.
Oh, boy.
Here I like that you provided an example. And for people who are studying bid and ask, they go, well, gee, this is kind of odd. I'm going to buy the T-bill into my inventory at 220 and sell it out of my inventory at 218. I guess I lose on every transaction I make up in volume. But the test point here, Carvey reviews, is that's a discount from face value. So a 2.20 discount from face value is indeed a lower price than a 2.18. And treasury bills are the only ones that are like this. And so I would expect an answer set where I show you choice A, $9.15, $10, choice B, 98 and 8, 98 and 3/8, choice C, 15, 16, choice D, 2.20, 2.18. I say, which of these is most likely a quote of a T-bill?
Right.
And it's the only one that looks like that, right? So it's a Sesame Street trick. One of these things is not like the other. So discount from face. It's a question. It's not more than a question. I would know that all debt securities trade over the counter in a negotiated quote-driven market. And so I'm working the treasury desk at Goldman Sachs, and I say 220, 218. I'm telling you I'm going to buy that into my inventory at 2.20 discount from face value. I'll sell it out of my inventory at 2.18 discount from face value. Anything want to add to that, Brian?
Nope, you got it.
There you go. You're welcome. Donata. I just want to say thanks to Mighty 90. There you go. Mighty 90. That's my update, Brian, on the series whatever in 60 minutes version. Oh, I forgot to ring the bell for you. And Herradura on your behalf.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's smooth.
Hello.
Smooth. Hi, Dean. Finishing up Series 10, STC. I have the STC course in Kaplan Bank. Should I alternate exams? Yeah, I like that. I like it. Get different phraseology. I can be very helpful. I'll help you with any questions, Boltsville. But on the Kaplan, you can just send me the QID, and I'm more than happy to help you with any Kaplan questions you'd like color on. On the STC, I would be willing to do that too, but you'd have to cut and paste it because I don't have access to their QBank backstage. All right, woohoo! Make a stay fly. All right, woohoo! Whoa. Hi, Dean. Hi. Oh, there. I remember you. I like that. I think that I guess that I did a lot of business in Portugal, and I don't know what nationality is, but I think of Spanish royalty. I think like King Carlos. I don't know why I'm thinking that's like a member of the Spanish royal family. By the way, it was funny, Brian, that FINRA. I had a guy I did business with him in Carlos, not King Carlos, but Carlos in Lisbon, Portugal, and he's a non-registered foreign finder. And FINRA took exception to what I was paying him for referral fees. And they said, well, that seems like a lot of money. I go, well, not really. I mean, can you call up King Carlos and get me a meeting? This Carlos can. Taking the SAE and failed. Got a 68 training zone. I think they're a little too skinny. So if you have the resources, I would suggest getting another vendor. Do you think training consultants a little skinny, Brian?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
So I would recommend, sometimes you got to change your coach, so to speak, and maybe go get a Kaplan SIE course, or I like Kaplan, but STC, or they're all good and up in marks. But I'm not a fan of training consultants. And August, do you have tips? Yeah. Remember, you don't have the resources for that. I have 4 SIE playlists. I have a podcast. I have lectures. I have an explication playlist, and I have lots of practice tests and practice questions. So if you don't have the resources to buy another test prep vendor, make use of my channel. I have a lot of SIE content for free on the channel. Can I take the 60? You sure can. NASA exams do not require sponsorship. So the SIE can be taken without sponsorship, and the 66 can be taken without sponsorship. Now, I would tell you that the 65 is more functional because you can use a 65 without a sponsoring broker-dealer at a registered investment advisory firm. The 66, you can certainly take it without sponsorship, but it won't work without a 7. So the 66 would be the idea that you're going to go find a sponsor for a 7. It's a lot of suitability questions where 2 answers could be correct. Well, I don't call them suitability questions, Damo. I call them judgment questions. And there are on the Series 24 judgment questions where you have to decide on the scenario, not so much suitability, but like, is it a ball game? Like, for example, I say, hey, Brian, you're a good customer. Let's go to the Knicks game tonight. Right? That's one scenario. I'm in attendance. Another scenario would be, hey, Brian, you're a good client. Here's 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. Okay, which one of those is a prohibited practice, given that they sound kind of similar, right? And you say, well, gee, going to the Knicks game with Dean, it's a regular season game. Doesn't sound like Brian's going to be compromised. Tickets to the Super Bowl, and I'm not even there. That's almost like a bribe, so to speak. So I wouldn't call those suitability questions as much as I'd call them judgment questions. Exactly. Same thing with outside business activities, right? Brian has a side hustle where he's, mowing lawns. He has a side hustle where he's selling mortgages. Mortgages would be more of an adverse interest, perhaps, than mowing lawns. I'm making the scenario up. So I would just say there's a lot of those you make the call kind of questions where you get 2 scenarios and they may be similar, and then you have to kind of look through and say, okay, well, that seems to be the more problematic answer, right? So, but suitability is mainly about supervising reps. So that would be in the context of a rep. You're looking at your order ticket and your rep is marked at discretionary, and then it's a limited partnership, right? And then you should know that as a 24, I call you, I go, Brian, what the heck? You just put this guy into this direct participation program and said you use your discretionary authority. You say, well, I have that. I said, well, Brian, you must have missed that you can't use your discretionary authority for a partnership. Or, Brian is a Merrill Lynch broker. I'm looking at the order tickets. And,
I'm a busy guy.
Yeah, I need to order about 1,000 shares of Bank of America. The order ticket says discretionary. I said, Brian, what are you doing? And he said, well, what do you mean? I got discretion. I go, well, you can't use it when there's a control relationship. So those aren't really suitability questions as much as they're supervising reps in terms of their suitability recommendation, or them making unsuitable recommendations is the way I would say that.
Yeah, I usually tell people they're case studies from FINRA.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right. Bill James is the subject matter expert at Kaplan and Brian. He loves it when I send him articles. I do this sometimes. I don't know if you're with us, Damo, on the Series 24 Reddit subreddit. I do the same thing. I send it to Bill, and sometimes I'll post it on the Reddit. The latest one I posted was a guy who was offering pre-IPO shares and was ripping people off. And so, Brian, you're right about case studies. Don't let this be you. Right? Don't let this happen to you. Right? I was telling you, I was reviewing Notman's Series 24, and Dave is doing a pretty good job. I'm watching his videos with Notman Marks, and I just don't think he has the right flavor in this regard. That on 24 Demo, you got to believe in human depravity and original sin, and that if we didn't have this framework, that reps would soon be running amok. And I think Dave makes it sound like it's a little more like a positive thing. It's really kind of more negative. All the videos, Brian, watched all your videos twice. I passed it. All right. Woo! I like it. Listen, Brian and I do not believe you should practice monogamy in executing your study plan. If there's resources out there, if there's another arrow you can put in your quiver in terms of passing your test, then you should do so. So I like that. I like that. Don't get so many.
Look at the name. Look at the name.
Victory. I like it. Victory. Ah. Love it. Take the Series 7 on Monday. I was recommended focusing on these final days. Well, we were talking about function 3 and the content outline, 91 questions on investment vehicles. So Lillian, I would be focusing on munis, options, and mutual funds. Those are the vast majority of those 90 questions. I would spend most of my time in function 3 investment vehicles. That would include ETFs, other variable annuities, that kind of stuff. Brian, your thoughts?
Along with that, just add one more thing. Options, munis, mutual fund, suitability questions.
There you go. Suitability or judgment question based on product knowledge, certainly. So I guess this is an inside thing, Brian. Shout out to Mom and Pop Flower Shop.
That's right.
You use that in your videos as like a company you're going to take public?
That's exactly right. It's the underwriting section.
I love it. Marcel, welcome. You always tell Mom you said hello. Be in touch soon. Please do. Brian and I are looking to a great evening in either New Orleans or Las Vegas with you, my friends. So we're going to make it happen. Pass the SIE. Woo! I hope we're getting close to the end because I'm running out of Herradura.
6:05 p.m.
6:05. Oh, is it already? Wow. Look how time flies. We're having fun. Okay, let's clean this thing up. Toasted Death Brew and Apple Vader. There you go. Woohoo. Woodford Reserve. That's good. That's some good bourbon. I had. Yeah. You like that? Lars on Fox. I'm telling you, this thing is turning into a jackpot for me. The bottle I just got today, Brian, is a Booker's. Booker's is a bourbon, like 101 proof. So maybe we'll do that next Tuesday.
I had a Woodford Reserve double oaked that I liked.
I like that. Double oaked. I haven't tried that. I'm going to have to try that. I like bourbon. My drinks of choice are bourbon, scotch, Lagavulin, and tequila. Those are my vices, I guess. Graciousness. I love it. Keep us posted for sure. It looks like, Brian, I think we're towards the end here real quick. Let me just see what we got. STC's fine, Chris, fine provider. 72, I like that. Should be in the mid 70s. Love it. We'll be praying for you. Sending you good test vibes. Quit my job to study full time. I love it. All in. Love it. 5 hours a day. Make sure you break that 5 hours up into study blocks. Don't try and do 5 hours in one setting. Break that up. Cheers. Pass the SIE in 7. Woo! On time and dollar weighted. Well, there are ways of measuring performance. Dollar weight. It's not fair for a mutual fund manager to be held accountable for people who are willy-nilly and putting money in and out of the fund. And you can use that when it's like a doctor's and it's his portfolio and it's only his money coming in and out. So time weighted. Which one is that, Brian? Time weighted is for the pool account.
Security value only.
Security value only, and dollar weighted it reflects the money coming in and out. It's a name and shoot point and click question on 60 cents. Welcome from Facebook. I always love it when we get people from Facebook. We broadcast to Facebook, we broadcast to LinkedIn, and we broadcast to our preferred platform, YouTube. So thank you so much, Salam, for joining us. Our Facebook group is on fire. That community, Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Check it out. Join us over there. We're out of time. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible, terrible. Yeah, any recommendations? So, Salam, I guess I'm going to call this tough love. How did that happen? The reason I'm calling this tough love is because you should have done enough practice tests to know how long it takes you to get to the performance opportunities. And the 63, I don't know if this is going to make you feel any better, is one of the few exams where there could very easily be a time constraint. So what recommendations? Make sure you do 63 practice tests and get used to that rhythm of what it feels like to get through those many questions in the time allocated. Your thoughts, Brian?
Absolutely. The practice finals, it's 75 minutes. In my classes, I've always warned people, be careful. This is the one exam where time can be a factor. You can't be overanalyzing, overthinking this stuff.
Yeah, the other ones, the good point, Brian. And the other ones, if you have a time constraint, you created it. So the only one that has a time constraint kind of built into it is 63. Using Achievable. I've been taking full SAM QBank, currently working on the U4. I love it. Okay. Salam, hello, Salam, hello. There you go. I think we're at the thing. Now, don't do it now. We have a drawing at the end of our session. We're coming to the end. Brian is going to put something on the whiteboard. And if you want to participate in the drawing, you have to put what he puts on the whiteboard the same way he puts it up there. Exactly. Otherwise, the Wheel of Fortune won't pick it up. So I'm going to do that in just a sec. And I'm going to get the Wheel of Fortune before Brian does it, just so we get a head start. What do you think I should allocate time given within a month? I think a month is a good starting point. Yeah, I go for it. I don't like putting it off. Go back into the cave and slay the dragon. You don't want to let that dragon sit in the cave and get comfortable. You want to go back and take them down. Take them down. All right, we'll finish up here. How many exams to take before the day? Well, if you're 13 days out, we think 7 to 10, and I would like just to commit to 5, 6. No more than one a day. It doesn't have to be one a day, but no more than one. You should spend as much time on remediation as you do taking the exam itself. All right, Brian, this is our last one. Yeah, well, 2 points. Remember, go do the check out my podcast. You failed, is it over? I have 5 recommendations about how to respond with a misfortune. The main one is to make sure you do that intellectual inventory using the test specifications. All right, Brian, I'm giving the Wheel of Fortune out. Give me just a sec here, Brian. Wheel of Fortune. Okay, Brian, I'm ready. Don't write this down until he gets it done there. Oh, well, that's easy enough. Now, remember, you got to do capital P. Now, let me go get the screen.
Good karma.
Yeah, that's right. Share screen. Okay, if you'd like to participate. Now, remember, you don't win a coaching call at a time and place of your choosing. What you win is a coaching call with a class tab at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. Let me put that back up there for you. Boom. And you go on there and you register and you can show up and we talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you want to do practice questions for exam or you want me to lecture on your particular topic, I'm more than happy to do so. All right. Last call. We got 27 entries, Brian. Woo, big day today.
Wow.
28. Okay. Anybody else? 29. Okay. Last call. Last call for alcohol.
Jeez. Wow.
Brian, when I moved to Vegas from California, I was in the bar and I said, when is last call? They said, well, there is no last call. I said, oh my God, you mean I got to throw myself out of this place? I'm just someone telling me it's time to go. All right, here we go. Boom. Oh, I just saw Marcel go by. Megan Stay Fly. There you go. Mega Stay Fly. Love it. Mega Stay Fly. I love that. That sounds cool.
Mega Stay Fly.
Yeah, that'd be embarrassing if you were Mega Stay Fly and you weren't Fly. You know, that would be bad. All right. So you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, Mega Stay Fly. You go to the coaching call for weekly drawing winners. Then you register and I'll see you then and we'll go over whatever you'd like to talk about. Let me get rid of this. And boom. Thanks for joining us. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, Arizona time, which doesn't change. It's our ritual. Bring your questions. We love to have do content, but we love the fun and fellowship as well. As you can tell, being off grid, this is like my time to talk to real people. Woo! You know, get a little cabin fever out here off grid. And remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say,
you got to remember, keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.